Training athletes is not the same thing as training bodybuilders or even just regular clients in the gym. Athletes are like Formula One racing cars. Most of them are. Like they are very high performance machines, very finely tuned machines, but they break down pretty easily. Okay? And the more powerful an athlete is, the easier it is to cause some damage. Okay? Now, also athletes, they have more to do than just lifting in a gym. They have to do sprint training. They have to do agility training. Some have to do conditioning work. They do sports practices, which is a lot more than just the bro who wants big arms. The bro who wants big arms can do 20 sets in his workout, can do 5 different exercises, 6 different exercises for a muscle group. The athlete can't do that because he's going to have to invest his training money in different training modalities. With athletes, you need to apply the principle of training economy. Training economy means that you have a certain amount of money to invest in your training. And since you have a limited amount to invest, then you must make choices that will give you the most bang for your buck. I'm going to give an example. One of the bobsleigh athletes I'm working with, very low tolerance for work. The guy is a machine. He is 180 pounds, squats 585, runs a 4.2740, bench presses in the high 300, power clean 315 for 6 reps. Just amazingly fast and explosive. But if you look at his training program, he does 3 sets power clean, 3 sets back squat, 3 sets bench press, and sometimes rowing 2-3 times a week. Of course, I'm using my different type of contractions. So on Monday, he's going to use eccentric training. On Wednesday, concentric. On Saturday, isometric. But it's still 3 exercises, 3 work sets each. Very low volume. That's 9 work sets in a workout. If you compare that to the average bro who will do 30 sets in a session. And he can't do 10,000 assistance exercises. Oftentimes what we do is that we have a 4th workout where he does hamstring work, glutes work, and lats work, but very low intensity, just to make sure that he is balanced. But it's very, very low volume. That is, of course, the extreme example of low volume. But what I'm getting at is that when you're working with an athlete, you need to look at how can I do the job with the least amount of exercises possible? Because with an athlete, you want the nervous system to be as fresh as possible for every session. There's nothing worse than getting into a sprint session with a weakened CNS. It can lead to injury, shitty performance, bad motor learning. So you need to have that nervous system as fresh as possible, and that's hard to do when you have many different modalities. So you need to look at your programming and how can I get the same job done with the least amount of work. In fact, I will say that it's better to get 90% of the result with 70% of the volume as it would be to get 100% with 30% more volume. Yeah, but you're progressing 10% less. Yes, but you have so much more nervous resources left for your track and field, left for your agility work, left for your sports practice, and you don't feel like shit all the time. With an athlete, you need to do the minimum amount of work to get the maximum or close to maximum rate of progression while staying as fresh as possible. That is the key. So never do 3 exercises when you can get the same job with 2 exercises. And doing 1 exercise, even if it only gets you 90% of the result versus 2 or 3, is a better option than doing 2 or 3 exercises. I mean, those of you who know my work know that when I work with bodybuilder, I'm a high volume guy. But when I work with athletes, I'm the minimum volume necessary to get the job done. If I find that the athlete can tolerate more work, I'll do more work. The second bobsleigh guy has a much higher work capacity. So he does the same basic workout, the same power clean, squat, bench, but on top of that, he will have 3 accessory exercises in a session. But he has a very high tolerance for volume. But never assume that an athlete has a high tolerance for work. Always start lower and gradually build up, okay? That is very important. Then, of course, how you combine speed and strength work is very important. I'm going to give an example. again, that bobsleigh guy, he's sprinting and lifting on the same days because I want to have days where the nervous system can rest and recover. If we sprint and lift on alternate days, we have high intensity nervous system work 6 days a week and he won't be able to recover from that. Few people can. At first, he told me that I perform my best at 3 p.m. So I said, okay, I'm going to start lifting in the morning and then sprint in the afternoon. You know what? He was sore all the time, cramping, even slight muscle tears. And then we just switched the order. With the same volume, same amount of work, zero problem recovering. Here's why. And that's something you need to consider when programming. His nervous system is so efficient. He's a fast twitch machine. Like he's always hyped up. The lifting session was actually increasing CNS activation so much that when he was getting into the sprint session, he was amped up, he was on fire, producing tons of force. But understand this, the more CNS is activated, the higher your muscle tone is. The higher the muscle tone is, the less mobility you have, the less elasticity the muscle have. Tension versus relaxation. So by having his nervous system too amped up, the muscles were slightly tight. So when he was sprinting, he was causing a little bit more micro trauma, leading to that soreness. When we started sprinting first, he didn't have that happening. So when working with athletes, it's not just a matter of allocating a certain amount of volume for a specific type of work. You need to really understand how each element work with each other. So be sure that you know your athlete, how much volume they can tolerate, and always go for the least amount of work to get 80-90% of the result. It will always be a best investment than doing that 30-40% more volume just to inch out like a 5 to 10% more progression, because that will decrease performance in all other aspects of his training.